Hello and welcome to AEW.1, the AEW Women's Division blog. My name is Travis. You can read more of our articles at AEW.1. Yes, that is a real URL.1. And you can hit me up on Bluesky if you want to talk at AEW.1. I am no longer on X. So today I want to do another stream of consciousness of sorts about a topic that's kind of on fire on the internet right now, which is the proposition of Mariah May perhaps jumping to WWE. Before we get started, I want to set some ground rules. So starting with rule 1, we stand a queen getting that bag, all right? We here at AEW Women's Division blog encourage all wrestlers, but especially women, to play billion-dollar companies against each other to get the best contract possible. Listen, wrestlers are drastically underpaid compared to pro athletes and TV actors, which they are both of those things. So don't simp for billionaires or billion-dollar companies, kids. Think of the wrestlers first, though that's who's putting their bodies on the line. Rule 2, wrestlers lie. And as they should. You show me a wrestler who is completely open and honest about everything that's going on in their life, and I'll show you a wrestler who will struggle to hold my fascination as a TV character. It's in their best interest to keep people guessing, and in this case, it's in their best interest to keep those companies, AEW and WWE, guessing as to what their next move is. So anytime there's a report or there's talk of Mariah May's social media activity, that should be taken with an extreme grain of salt. Think about, before Mercedes Moné debuted, it was reported that people within WWE were certain that she was coming back. And conversely, talking about someone who actually made the jump, right before Jade Cargill went to WWE, she gave a glowing interview about Tony Khan as a boss and AEW as a company, and saying that she couldn't imagine herself working anywhere else. So it's not that these people are full of shit, it's that they have to lie in some cases, work the dirt sheets, and it's no different than pro athletes talking about hiding their intentions about where they might want to sign in the off season, or how committed they are to the franchise that they currently play for. Rule 3, it's her life. So, full disclosure, I would miss Mariah May horribly if she left AEW. You know how with any famous band, there's always that one fan who takes great pride in letting you know that they knew of them and they loved their music before they were big? Well, that's me with Mariah May. I've followed her since she entered Stardom, and it wasn't long before I was tagging Tony Khan in AEW, telling him hey, check this person out. I don't know why I thought I would make the difference there. I'm a pretty low follower account, but I was just hoping that Tony Khan was seeing what I was seeing, and clearly he or someone close to him was. But regardless, we all just need to celebrate Mariah May, real name Mariah Mead, her decision, whatever that may be. It's her life. She knows what will make her happiest, and we need to just love that she's got all these options available to her. So let's talk about Mariah here playing the field between AEW and WWE. Now for me, it's hard to reconcile Mariah May, this envelope-pushing star, being in the sterile and conservative WWE. We wouldn't see anything close to what she did in the Hollywood Ending match, nor would she have the type of, let's say, shared affections like she showed with Toni Storm or Mina Shirakawa, or sometimes both at the same time. But AEW's permissiveness aside, I also feel like AEW's faster and harder hitting and frankly riskier style fits her so perfectly, because she can do those snug, tight maneuvers with the sort of dexterity that you need for dropping someone on the back of their neck the right way so that it looks devastating, but it's totally safe. You know, there's no need for her to grab a hold. No one should ever dream of telling her, slow it down, kid. And I would not like to see her moveset diminished. She currently does the Storm Zero sort of as a counterbalance to Toni Storm's Storm Zero, which is like a flash pile driver if you didn't know. That's a finisher that's not going to be allowed in WWE. Now, it's not that big of a loss if she loses that. She has the Mayday, which looks perfectly WWE safe. But she just does a lot of things in the ring where, you know, I feel like there's going to be a governor put on her if she goes to WWE. You know, it's like buying a Ferrari to be an Uber driver. But, you know, like they say, there's a lot more to pro wrestling than just the wrestling aspect of it. I think we all know that even a dialed back Mariah May can more than excel in the character-driven sports entertainment company that is WWE. I like to say, in jest mostly, that being good at emoting is easy when you're easy to look at. And that would sell Mariah actually short a bit, as you know, some of the vignettes that she did alongside Timeless Toni Storm demanded multiple watchings, because even in those segments where she had no lines, she was just emoting and reacting to all these things that Toni was saying, and it was priceless just to go back and isolate on her what she was doing. Her and Toni are just like so good together. It'd be a shame to see them go. But the thing about Mariah, and I said this when she came in to AEW, is she has chemistry with everyone. You know, she built chemistry with Mina. She built chemistry with Micah. I'm missing someone right now. Maybe May Sierra. But she just builds chemistry with everyone. So whoever it is, if she was in WWE, it'd be fine in that respect. Now, did Toni Storm become the bigger star of the two from the All About Mariah storyline? Of course. But you can't discount how much of that creation of the timeless character was only possible from having Toni and Mariah volleying this character back and forth between each other. And I want to reiterate that point. Like, we don't get timeless Toni Storm without the glamour Mariah May. Mariah May has been stress tested in AEW. There's no match, no physicality, no creative that WWE could possibly throw at her where she'll wilt or not be up to the task. If anything, like I said, they'll be putting a governor on her output. If you're a WWE fan listening to this, you should be very excited about the prospect of Mariah May coming there. But what about the hashtag We Want Mina of it all? We Want Mina. AEW has Mina. She is coming to AEW, and that might be the most dismaying thing about a Mariah May departure, now that Mina is set to come there full time. We're not exactly sure when, but Mina will be in Las Vegas for Stardom's American Dream shows taking place during WrestleMania week. And then she's facing Mercedes Moné and Azumi in a three-way match at New Japan Pro Wrestling Resurgence on May 9th for the Big Lilac, as I like to call it, which is the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. So I wrote about this a little bit on my blog about how it's strange that we're getting Mercedes Moné versus Athena so early, because we're going to know from that match who's in the final at Double or Nothing. And yet that's another 5-6 weeks away still. Why that big gap? Well, maybe that's where they're going to bring in Mina to fill in some TV time. This is just me. I don't know. I see these holes in the schedule and I fill them with stuff. It's my ADHD is what it basically is. It's my ADHD. I'm sorry. Let me get back on track here. So the report, the original report was that Mariah May her contract is ending this summer, whether that's beginning of the summer, end of summer. It's a bit nebulous. You know, there's 3 months. It could be June. It could be late August. Now people are saying no, it's actually a lot longer than that. It could be November. And now people are saying, well, it could be into 2026. So we don't know. You know, like I said, dirt sheets get worked, wrestlers lie, again, as they should. And you know what? There's even a part of me that wonders if AEW sometimes puts stuff out there. Like I look at Daniel Garcia, the whole Daniel Garcia situation. I would love to give him or Tony Khan truth serum, because my conspiracy theory is that all the talk of him possibly going to WWE or NXT, whatever, was to raise his stock with wrestling fans in general. Be like, ooh, look at this guy, like everyone wants him. Oh, and then AEW got him. I never believed he was leaving, but his name was trending all the time, up until like the day he finally showed up at what was it? All In? Did they even confirm it then? I don't remember. Anyway, I do wonder if some of that goes on sometimes, where AEW is just getting free publicity, and then when they come back to AEW, it's like, hey, we won. I don't know. Holy, my ADHD is like out of control today. I need more caffeine. Anyway, the point being that even if Mariah May was 100% Fed bound, Mariah and Mina in AEW don't have to be ships in the night. You can still run a program between the two. In fact, you should run a program, since Mina did the job to Mariah at AEW, what was it, Dynamite, Winter is Coming. That's what it is. Their tie-in with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and stuff. Winter is Coming. She did the job there. Mariah should return the favor, which I'm sure she gladly would, and put Mina over. In fact, I have a fantasy book of this, and sorry, just bear with me. I like these tangents, and my brain goes a million directions at once. So I said earlier that Mina is facing Mercedes and Azumi at Resurgence for Big Lilac. I like the idea of Mina Shirakawa pins Azumi to take Mercedes New Japan Strong belt, and then instead of having Mina show up and being like, fans were like, well, you gotta push her in the title scene, she's so over, she shows up with a title, and now it's people coming after her. And there you go, you can run, that can be her first program, is Mariah May doesn't have a title anymore, sees her old pal and Mina and says like, hey, I'll take Big Lilac off your hands for you. And that's a pay-per-view match right there. And then if Mariah May does resign, you can just go from there. You could have Mariah May go on a Tony Storm style spiral, like she did after she lost at All In, where she's going mad, and instead of her coming back and trying to get revenge on Mina, maybe she comes back and Mina, being the lovable, altruistic babyface that she is, tries to bring Mariah back into the fold, tries to reform Rose Gold, which was their tag team name in Stardom. I think that would be tremendous. You could have a tag team run where, Mariah and Mina are like, fuck yeah, like, we're Rose Gold, AW doesn't know what's gonna hit them, we're gonna take this by storm, this, ideally they would have women's tag team belts, but who knows when that will ever happen. But let's say they did, and they show up and like, yeah, we're here to fuck shit up, and then they run into a tag team of like Megan Bayne and Jamie Hayter, and it's like, oh, that's right, wrestlers on this side of the ocean are huge, and they could have some awesome like underdog babyface performances, and it could be magic. Anyway, Jesus, sorry, I can't stop fantasy booking. As soon as I get an idea in my head, I gotta spit it out. But another aspect I want to talk about with Mariah May staying in AEW, and this is kind of a point in the favor of her leaving the WWE, is that in her AEW run, they kind of nailed it with her 2-year or 18-month run or whatever it ended up being with her All About Mariah run, it was perfect. Like everything from the way she debuted, which was so understated, with her just having a backstage, this wonky backstage interview with RJ City and being like, "Oh, I love Toni Storm. Oh, you could introduce me to her?" You know, and it was so like people were like, why didn't they just like bring her out as a surprise and, you know, get her out there and wrestling and go on a big streak? But that's how everyone debuts. And everyone kind of sees through it at this point that when someone new comes in, it almost, those first few wins don't really matter, because they're like, okay, is this momentum gonna hold up? And with her, they slow built her so much to where when she finally had her first match, she was sort of built up as this sort of somewhat of a plucky underdog, you know, a cocky underdog, which pretty heelish. I mean, I remember the night Deonna Purrazzo debuted and she started talking shit about New Jersey and stuff. But yeah, the whole body of the thing, from her debut to the Hollywood ending and everything in between, it was kind of the perfect run. And the thing about that is, it's hard to see anything topping that. Now, if she did the thing I just mentioned about her reforming Rose Gold, you can kind of extend that run. Like it can be a continuation of the All About Mariah story, which is cool. And that could keep her hot and on top in AEW for another year, 18 months, maybe even 2 years if they kind of come back around and put Toni Storm into that story, because Mariah and Mina both have their own connections to Toni Storm at this point. You know, it could be like, you know, I don't want to say bloodline because there's not that many members, but it would be a long-term story that they could tell. But short of that, eventually there's always that's what's next with a wrestler. And what's next in AEW will have a hard time living up to the Hollywood ending. And if you're thinking like, well, Timeless Toni Storm has gone on and not skipped a beat, well, the Timeless Toni Storm character is kind of unfuckable. Like, she's on an iconic run and the type of form, like night in and night out, that wrestling promoters dream of. Like, she's Austin 316ing it every night, but with sexual innuendos that make men uncomfortable. It's awesome. It's like, I'm like, slow down, Toni. You're gonna run out of material. But she just keeps spitting lines out every week. It's amazing. And you know, Mariah May, I don't think she has that in her, and that's not a knock. Like, that's not a knock against her. Outside of Mercedes Moné, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying that anyone has that about them in the division. And even Mercedes struggled to find her footing in this company for quite a while. She's got it now, where she too is unfuckwithable, but it took time, and it's a very rare thing. You know, in most, if not all cases, wrestlers, they need the right creative, they need the right players around them, and the right timing to reach those rare heights. And Mariah was that. You know, she was like the dude in The Big Lebowski that, sometimes there's a man, and I'm talking about the dude here. Sometimes there's a man, and well, he's the man for his time. But that was Mariah. Like, she was perfect timing, perfect supporting cast, perfect creative with RJ City doing all their shit. It was perfect. But now we are in the what's next stage for Mariah. Now, to go into all that, just say, like, meanwhile, Mariah showing up in the WWE is an immediate shock to the system. And yeah, like, plenty of zealous AEW fans are going to be quick to point out, and they're not wrong, but it's also disparaging for disparaging's sake, that fresh coat of shine quickly dulls. But if WWE signs her, and they really want her, and they want to invest in her, and they're not just signing her to get a win over AEW like they did with Jade Cargill, there's no reason she couldn't be that company's ace. She's that good. Like I said, she's been stress tested in AEW beyond what she would ever be pressed to do in WWE. Like, she's ready for anything that they could throw at her. Now, if you're an AEW fan, an AEW Women's Division fan, like I am, the news of Mariah May possibly leaving after her incredible run left you feeling a bit downtrodden. But try to remember that this women's division is in great shape. I talked about the timing. The timing was perfect when Mariah May came in, because she came in November 2023, I believe it was, at a time when, Jade Cargill had just left, and she had been, whatever you want to think about her. I was actually a big fan of hers in AEW, but whatever you want to think about her, she was heavily featured. She was usually had at least a squash match or something. Anyway, she was gone, is what I'm saying. And Toni Storm was there, but she didn't have even a quarter, even a tenth of the star power that she does now. And the biggest program that the division could have delivered at that time, which was Britt Baker turning on Jamie Hayter, was now completely off the table. Jamie Hayter went down with injury, and then soon after, Britt Baker also went down injury. So you have like the biggest program they could have had with their two biggest stars, and it's just gone. So it was a true shuffling of the deck. Now, in 2025, it's a completely different game. You have Mercedes Moné at the top of her game. Timeless Toni Storm is an icon, one of the most popular wrestlers in the entire company, man or woman. Athena looks like she's been freed from ROH jail. Megan Bayne has arrived. She looks like a god in wrestling boots. You've got Chris Statlander, Will Nightingale, and Jamie Hayter, just all killers currently sitting on the back burner, just ready to explode as soon as the spot opens up for them. And then you've got prospects like Queen Amanada and Billy Starks, and Harley Cameron looks very promising. The continuing development of Julia Hart and Anna Jay. Thunder Rosa could heat up at any time with a fiery promo and a great match. And I won't even get into like all the women. There's so many women that are just MIA right now. Obviously Ruby Soho and Taya Mello are on maternity. Taya Mello had a match. I don't know if you know this, in Stardom, a tag team match. She looked great. Like, she'd come back at any time, as soon as there's creative. Of course, the aforementioned Britt Baker is out. Hard to know what her comeback might look like. Sky Blue, sounds like she'd come back at any time. Sheeta, haven't seen her in a while. Riho, haven't seen her in a while. Nyla, haven't seen her in a while. Yuka Sakazaki, I don't think we've seen her in a minute. I said I wasn't going to go into all the people that were MIA, but I guess I just went into a bunch of them. Anyway, the point being, this roster, if you're a pessimist, you say there's a logjam. If you're an optimist, you say it's like a pressure cooker. Whatever your disposition, it feels invariably that one or multiple women are going to step up and show that they want it and are ready to take the next big step. As Aristotle said, nature abhors a void. Nature abhors a void. And that void, and arguably Mariah May leaving doesn't even leave a void because it's already been kind of filled. You kind of need to fit Mariah May back in. But nature abhors a void, and that void will always be filled. That space will always be filled. There's always people ready to jump in. There's always a new player ready to jump in. And AEW's got a backlog of women who really should be getting pushed at this point. The last thing I'll add, just as a silver lining, if you are like me, a big AEW fan, a big women's wrestling fan, a big Mariah May fan, if she leaves, the one silver lining that I'll just add to this is that Tony Khan will inadvertently do something that I've really been wanting companies to do for quite a while now, which is to bring back like territory runs. Now, this is usually used, like back in the day, you'd have a monster heel come into a territory, he'd fuck shit up, he'd wreck shop, he would look unbeatable, and then your babyface would either your babyface world champion or your babyface would win the world championship back from him. He'd get slain by your top babyface, and that monster would leave the territory, never to be heard from again. And he would continue doing that thing in the next territory with their top babyface. Now, obviously, the All About Mariah storyline is more complex than that. It doesn't even really fit that narrative, and Mariah isn't really the archetype for that. Like, she's only 26 and a lot more versatile than a big stiff monster. She's someone that you want to keep around and build off of because she's amazing. But it is nice when you can encapsulate a single run into a simple story without, and then she did this and went to that, which wasn't as good. You don't have to worry about the what's next. That story is encased in amber to be enjoyed for what it was. Now that goes against the business model of episodic TV wrestling, which struggles not to fall into the traps of many TV series. What they do when they have had too many seasons or just go on instead of ending the story nicely and neatly and tidy. For example, like this show probably isn't nearly as good as I remembered it being when I wore younger man's clothes. But Heroes, the show Heroes, which ran from 2016 to 2010, the first season, undeniably great. I would show that. I would show it to my friends. I would rewatch with my friends, and they would love it too. The second season, not as good. It paid off some things from the first season, but not as strong. By the third season, I was annoyed because it felt like everything was a retread, but they were just arbitrarily switching allegiances between the characters so they could trot the same show back out, but in a different order. And I never even watched season 4. So if Mariah's current output in AEW, if that's all there is, it'll be great to look back fondly without reservation and say, oh, she went on and did this other thing that wasn't nearly as good, or whatever happened to Mariah May. She used to be so hot. Well, she was in a white hot storyline is what happened, and you can't keep up that momentum forever. And maybe she heads to WWE. Maybe 2-3 years down the road she comes back. That's what wrestlers should be doing. It's always a fresh coat of paint, and there's always cool stories to tell by going back to the company you were in. But selfishly, I want her to stay in AEW for her entire career. But that leads me into my closing thoughts. All right, so I'm gonna get a bit tribal here. I'm gonna get a bit glib for a second. All right, it gives me the ick when I hear wrestler talk about their dream of being in the WWE. For one, I liked W2 at one time, but then I turned 21. And I grew up. I'm like JD from NY right here. Just super glib and super fucking negative. Like, it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm one of those people who can't eat cilantro because it tastes like soap to me. WWE is cilantro to me. If you like it, no judgment. I'm not here to yuck your yum, but it is yucky. Secondly, I never want to feel like I'm the one giving the favor for showing up to watch someone else wrestle. And when someone talks about, it's my dream to be here, thank you for coming and helping me live my dream, I don't want that. A star is supposed to make me feel lucky for sharing the same air as them. So every wrestler just needs to quit saying that shit. I hate it. I want you to be bigger than life, cooler than shit, feel like you're untouchable, lucky to share an arena with you and thousands of other Mark fans. All right, that pedantic diatribe aside, I'm really happy for Mariah May. From watching that girl in Stardom to going to AEW, killing it, and then maybe going into WWE, which is her dream, as much as I hate how that sounds. But and whether it's her dream, whether she wants to go to WWE because that's her dream, that's what she grew up on, or maybe she's going to stay in AEW because she's discovered something that she likes even better because that wasn't around when she was younger. And if AEW was around, maybe she would have grown up on AEW. But none of us can say that. Although, I'll say really quick, I was in Toronto at a show and I heard a little kid, he was probably 15, I don't know, a little kid say that he's been a Darby Allin fan since he was a little kid, and I'm like, oh my God. I aged 10 years in that moment. My hair like instantly went salt and pepper. I was like, AEW's been around for like 4 or 5 years. What do you mean, a little kid? You're a little kid now. Anyway, just getting back on track. I celebrate Mariah May's decision is what I'm trying to say here. She knows what is going to make her happy. Nobody should hold that against her. And I know she'll be great no matter where she lands. Anyway, you can let me know what you think in the comments below, or hit me up on Bluesky. My handle is at aw.1. The website, aw.1. Check out more of our articles there. Thanks for listening, and as always, remember to let the women in your life know how much you appreciate them.